It's May 19th, 2004. We're in Minneapolis, where it's Game 7 of a Western Conference semifinal between the Timberwolves and the Sacramento Kings. Down 3 points, the Kings have the ball and 2 seconds to send this game to overtime. If they miss here, it's all over. Wolves advance. Before we see what happens, we need to meet these teams and the centerpiece players who will decide this moment. We need to rewind. Yep, we might be headed for even more basketball. Somewhere, the super stacked, already advanced LA Lakers are just chilling and waiting for their conference final opponent. Good for you, Lakers. In here, it is the opposite of chill. The possibility of a Game 7 needing overtime has 20,000 people on razor's edge. Exactly what you would expect from this matchup. The Minnesota Timberwolves have existed since 1989. Since then, their regular season record against the Sacramento Kings is a clean 30-30. That record includes 4 consecutive overtime games, spanning all of 2003. So, of course, this first ever postseason matchup between the Kings and Wolves has been neck and neck, tit for tat. Each team stole an early road win. We've even gotten overtime. And each team won one of the last 2 games by double digits. Constant, drawn-out battles have engendered respect between enemies, but they're also really sick of each other, and they're getting feisty. Game 5 saw some ejections. Game 6 saw more, and that actually matters now. Anthony Peeler, a former Wolf, tangled with one of his good friends, Minnesota's Kevin Garnett. This fight, if you can call one guy weaponizing his elbow and the other guy immediately declining to retaliate a fight, got Peeler suspended for this Game 7. Garnett managed to avoid suspension for that scuffle, and for his prolonged, eerily calm, extremely specific gun metaphor describing his preparation for this game.
I'm sitting in the house, I'm loading up the pump, I'm loading up the Uzi, I got a couple of M16s. Couple 9s, I got a couple joints with some silencers on them. I'm just loading up clips, a couple grenades. Got a missile launcher with a couple, missiles. I'm ready for war.
So Peeler's not here to offer three-point shooting when the Kings desperately need it. Garnett, meanwhile, is over here scrambling to prevent that three-pointer and avoid yet another deadlock. He's trying to stop Chris Webber. If you've heard of anyone on this court, it's these guys. You know each of Webber and Garnett as the face of his franchise, but first you knew them as the vanguard of the power forward position. Webber came first, electrifying the state of Michigan in high school and then in college with the Fab Five Wolverines. As an 8th grader, Kevin Garnett watched Webber dominate the 1991 McDonald's High School All-American game. He saw an older kid about his size blocking shots all the way to half court, acting crazy, hollering. Chris had a lot of personality and energy to go with a cross-positional repertoire of skill. Kevin liked that, and a few years later, strongly considered following Webber's footsteps to the University of Michigan. The Wolverines would have been delighted to mobilize yet another revolutionary power forward. But the 18-year-old Garnett tried something even bolder, entering the 1995 NBA draft straight after his senior high school season. Ever since, Webber vs. Garnett has been one of the best shows in the NBA. It's a wonderful rivalry, friendly but jaw-dropping in intensity and creativity once the sneakers hit the hardwood. The first time these guys met as pros in '96, Webber and his Washington Bullets got the better of Garnett and his still pretty new Wolves. Garnett looked so dazzled to be facing his role model that veteran Minnesota teammate Sam Mitchell gave Kevin a little slap in the face to snap him out of it. Garnett snapped out of it. In his sophomore season, KG absolutely blossomed. In 1997, a kid 2 years removed from high school made sports history. Minnesota extended Garnett's contract for 6 years and $126 million. At the time, the largest contract ever in any pro sport. When you do that, you shake the league. And franchise owners were quite shook indeed. And you also place big expectations on everyone involved. When you sign that contract, you're expected to become a superstar. And Kevin did that, exploding outside the box of how a big guy is expected to play. He has been worth it the whole time. Perennial all-star, always in the conversation for All-NBA and All-Defense. For 6 straight seasons, Kevin held up his end of the deal. But those Minnesota rosters included one all-star teammate. And I'm sorry, Wally Szczerbiak, but I have no idea how you pulled this off. And they won 0 playoff series. First-round elimination after first-round elimination. Most recently, it was a glum collapse last season against the Lakers. Minnesota went up 2-1 in the series, up double digits in Game 4, and then just... See, when you offer that contract, you're expected to go all in, nail down a supporting cast, and contend for a title. The Wolves haven't done that. They fumbled away Garnett's initial co-stars. They drew a debilitating league penalty for trying to snake the free agent system. And there's been tragedy, too, in the 2000 death of Garnett's teammate and close friend, Malik Sealy. To the extent that the Wolves won during those years, and they did win in the regular season, it was Garnett making that happen. Immediately after last season's 6th straight playoff elimination, Garnett again became extension eligible. The Wolves knew they had to ante up if they wanted to keep their guy, and if they wanted to contend during his prime. So they did. That June deal that sent away Anthony Peeler and his elbows brought back Sam Cassell, a ballsy, battle-tested veteran point guard with championship experience. A month later, Minnesota acquired Latrell Sprewell, who had reestablished himself as a star scorer after his whole thing. Free agent pickup Trenton Hassel has really broken out as a defensive specialist. This is a real supporting cast. These pickups helped convince Garnett to re-up. Still, as KG goes, so go the Wolves. And KG went this year. This was by far the best season in Timberwolves history. They're the damn 1 seed in the West. They throttled the Denver Nuggets to deliver the franchise's first playoff series win. Garnett notched a 20-20 triple-double in one of those victories and closed the thing out with a 28-point performance. A month into these playoffs, Garnett's only wavered once. Ironically, it was in Game 1 of this series, right after they gave him a trophy for that incredible season. That's right, you are looking at the 2004 NBA MVP right here, and trust that he's played like one after that Game 1 slip-up. So that supporting cast is critical, but the Wolves wouldn't be ahead in a Game 7 right now without Garnett taking over. Sam Cassell's hip is severely messed up. You don't see guys getting electrostim on the bench that often, but he's doing his best. Same goes for Wally Szczerbiak, who's been decent despite literally breaking his back a few weeks ago. And Sprewell's been kind of shaky with 6 turnovers and some open misses. Garnett, 32 points on 23 shots, 5 blocks, 4 steals, 21 rebounds. 20 of those boards on the defensive glass equal the NBA playoff record. Zoom in even closer for a microcosm of Garnett's revolutionary excellence. The first 8 minutes or so of this fourth quarter, the most important quarter of his career to date, were a KG masterpiece. Here you had a 7-footer running stride for stride with Doug Christie, a guard, then snuffing out a transition attempt with his left hand. That's special. Here's that same 7-footer bringing the ball up and calling the play, basically running point with Cassell on the bench. Special. Fadeaway J spinning toward his offhand. Soft touch near the rim, even with the contact. Gliding through traffic for an easy lay-in. An honest-to-God ankle-breaking crossover on the perimeter, then 2 strides to a huge dunk. A desperate heave of a 3-pointer over 2 people. Cash. Special, special, special. Kevin Garnett built this lead, and he protected it too. When Weber put Irvin Johnson in the spin cycle, there was Garnett to smash the finish. In that exchange, and in the effectiveness of that Garnett crossover, and in the way Weber's been moving the last few minutes, you get a taste for the contrast that makes this moment feel even heavier. Most of that stuff we just saw KG do, the astounding combination of finesse and force for a man his size, Webber once had it. Remember, he was KG's inspiration. So what changed? When Webber got traded to Sacramento in 1998, he had no reason to expect excellence. The Kings were a small market, mediocre team. They hadn't won a single playoff series since relocating to Sacramento in the mid-'80s. Webber considered just ghosting his new employer. When he finally did get on the plane to California, he spent the flight crying. He has called it the worst time in his life. Well, it got better. Sacramento turned out to be the best place for Chris. He got the support KG lacked for so long. Here in Sacto, he's been coached by Rick Adelman, who built his free-flowing, fast-paced offense on Webber's brilliance. Buckets and boards, gorgeous passes out of the high post, sweet touch, sassy stuffs, big plays, big numbers, regular selections to All-Star and All-NBA teams. Garnett has become the superior player, sure, but we can agree that the resume of the man to whom he owes inspiration doesn't rank that far behind him. And Webber owes Garnett something too. When Chris became a free agent in 2001, he eventually accepted a big new extension with Sacramento. And you can be certain Garnett's record salary set the bar high for Webber's agent. $123 million over 7 years made Chris a very close second to his friend and rival. And in this case, the Kings' investment quickly paid off in the form of deep playoff runs because Webber had a squad. Peja Stojakovic, a rookie when Webber arrived, developed into a superstar, among the best shooters on earth. Mike Bibby isn't as flashy as Webber's original Sacramento setup man, Jason Williams, but he's even more productive. Bibby is as much of a scoring threat on any given night as C-Web or Peja. Vlade Divac has been Webber's older, scruffier, equally crafty frontcourt mate for this whole stint. And the supporting cast has gotten better and better. Doug Christie and Bobby Jackson, Kings since 2000, solidified some of the best and most entertaining lineups in the league. Brad Miller arrived recently, bringing all-star frontcourt depth and another body to throw at Shaq whenever it's time to face the Lakers. Oh, about that. So Webber's Kings ascended, routinely capturing one of the topmost playoff seeds in this brutal Western Conference, routinely making real runs toward the finals. But they never ran all the way. Webber's Kings kept nearing the finish line only to trip in elimination games. They got really close to beating those mighty Lakers, only to falter miserably, like the perfect storm of heartbreak and ref weirdness that made 2002 truly haunting. Here is all that recent history in one place. Meanwhile, Webber's personal history overlaps with the above unfavorably. You can look at nearly any of these elimination games and find that Webber wasn't his best, didn't come through in the clutch moments. This is understandably a bit of a sore point given how Webber's college career ended. But in the last Game 7 Sacramento played and lost, 2003 against the Mavericks, Webber was absent. Late in Game 2, with defeat a foregone conclusion, in the game but definitely not that series, Webber planted his foot to catch a lob from Bibby and never left the floor. A devastating knee injury cost Webber not only the rest of that 0-3 series, but most of this 0-3-0-4 season, plus a bunch more games lost to suspension. Without Webber, the Kings were basically as good as usual, just different. Bibby had his best season. Peja has been a borderline MVP as the crux of the offense. New look, same great taste. Alas, Webber's long-awaited return didn't add spice. It kind of soured things. C-Web played decently in his first few games back, but looked shaky enough that the Kings actually sat him for a game, even though he said he felt fine. When he returned with a stinker, and a 2-for-21 outing really does stink, Webber got booed by the same home fans who once begged him to stay. Each forced shot, each slow defensive rotation, each missed box out drew more ire from fans. And Webber felt something worse than betrayed by it, truly hurt. It was a grim close to the regular season, but the playoffs are a great opportunity to rewrite a narrative very fast. Did Webber do that in a first-round rematch against the Mavs? Not entirely. He got pretty soundly outplayed by young Dirk Nowitzki. At least the Kings got revenge with a win. Has Weber done it in 6 games, 47 minutes, and 58 seconds against the Wolves? No, not entirely. Listen, you try battling KG coming off knee surgery, and especially after tacking on a calf strain from Game 5. This just isn't the Chris Webber we're used to. Tonight, he's been most successful when he accepts that. Just pick, pop, and bury the standstill jumper. Stuff like this doesn't work the way it used to. You can see the plan, Webber just doesn't have the juice to finish. Webber used to flush from this position, but here he was smoking a point-blank layup in the final minute. This last Kings sequence began with 16 seconds on the clock, and in that play, Coach Adelman had Webber screening and screening and screening. He wasn't the guy taking the shot. But that's all the past. This is right now. Right now, it has to be 3 points. With Anthony Peeler suspended and with Peja Stojakovic blanketed by Trenton Hassel, Chris will be asked to find these 3 points. The Kings have a long-standing elimination game problem, a long-standing Lakers problem. Webber factors into both. This moment represents one last shot at fixing the first problem and hopefully earning another chance at fixing the second problem. The Wolves had a first-round problem 7 years in a row. They are one stop away from advancing to the third round of this postseason, building upon the MVP year and masterpiece postseason of Kevin Garnett, who is running to contest the role model of his youth. All that narrative comes down to one shot. Welcome to a moment in history.
Weber for the tie, and the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to the Western Conference Finals.
Thank you so much for watching. We've got plenty more stuff about KG and C-Web, so check out these videos below.